Hello, this is old Mr. Kent of MrKent.com, and on this flight I wanted to return back to that little plot of ground where it looks like they're starting some construction. My wife and I spotted it the other day as we were coming home from town, and I flew out and looked at it in a previous video, and I wanted to see if they were doing anything out there. And as you will see when we get there, they were actually still leveling the ground. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and continue a story. If you're new to my channel, for the last year or so, I'm 80 years old, and for the last year or so I've been telling stories from my life. And then I decided I'll get organized, and so we're up to about the second year of college, where when I went to Western Washington State College. And so I had this kid I went to high school with, and we were buddies all the way through high school. And then when I chose to go to college, he followed me. He chose to go there too. And the first year of school, we lived in the dorm together, and I got kind of tired of living with him. And so the second year of school, my parents had disowned me for buying a motorcycle. And so I found me a place to live in a little house it was owned by two old ladies, and they called it the ranch for some reason. And so I thought, well, now, I can finally leave him behind. And as it turned out, I can't remember the exact details, up in the upper right-hand corner, you can see that they're working on that same little plot of land. Anyway, as it turned out, he decided he'd go live in the ranch also. So he followed me again, although we weren't roommates, because I was actually in a sunroom on the second floor. That was a two-story house, just an old house. And so they rented me this sunroom for $18 a month. And I crowded everything that I had into it. And then he and another person, they lived in a room in the same house. And then I'll put a picture of it up here pretty soon. Anyway, so they lived in, and then there was this other guy that lived there too. So there was like 1, 2, 3, 4 of us living in the upstairs of this old house owned by these old ladies. and I made them mad a lot because I wasn't what would you call it? They wanted everything nice and clean and orderly, and that's not how I lived. In fact, I had to work on my motorcycle. You can see there's the picture that I sketched. I worked in the dish room, and one Saturday morning I came home and didn't feel like studying, so I stood up in the corner of the room on the foot of my bed, which you can see down there, and started sketching with a ballpoint pen. And that's actually the only artwork I ever did, I think. So that was my room, and I'm going to explain some of the things in the room. So we'll start at the upper left-hand corner. First of all, that cabinet thing, that was more or less of a cardboard closet, and on top of the closet you can see my crash helmet, and then also there was a whole bunch of rope. I did some rope climbing with a buddy of mine, and and so that was laying up there. And then you can see I've got special things taped to the front of the door. I don't know what that was about. But anyway, we moved to the right, and there's a dresser. It's definitely an antique dresser. And in the mirror there, I've got a calendar, and it looks like from the sketch that it must have been the month of March. And then down at the bottom, you can kind of see where it says vacation. So I had a week's vacation coming up there pretty soon. And then sitting on the top of the dresser, that long tube sitting there, I had become I had become an art miner. And so that was my brushes and pencils and stuff. And then as you go across there, there's a lot of bottles there for deodorant and stuff, but you can kind of see a knob on a portable radio. That was my little portable radio. And then out on the lower left-hand corner of the cabinet, that was a box that contained my harmonica. And then as we go across the cabinet, that box that next to the little box, the big box, that had my note cards in it because I was doing, I had to make a research paper every quarter. And then we go across over to the right, and that thing that looks like a bowling pin, back then they sold deodorant and stuff like that. Some company, I don't remember what company it was, but they sold deodorant and in those. So anyway, and then there's a drawer open, which was pretty normal for me. Also on the hanging on the wall was some rain gear, because up in Bellingham it rained a lot. And then I also had a khaki colored jacket that you can see the cuff hanging there with it. And then we'll go back to the lower left over here, and that was what they call a library table. And you can see my 4-string guitar was leaning up against it between the bed and the table. And that's my typewriter sitting on a drawer. Had a drawer that slid out, and then it had a cover on it, and you could lift the cover up. But anyway, then I set my typewriter on top of that. And then on the table with the typewriter, you can see a little study lamp there. And then also I had, there's a cup there with something sticking out of it. That's not a spoon. What that is it was a little coil that you plug into the wall, put it in your water, heat it up, and then just left of that, there's a bottle of instant coffee, and that's how I'd make my coffee. And one other thing, if you notice the dresser, you can see on the leaning against it, there's some metal wiry things. Those are pant stretchers that when I'd get my pants out of the dryer, I'd stick those down in the legs, and then it would look like I ironed them. And then, let's see, then over to the right, there's a door, and of course I had paper on the door because it had a window in it, and I wanted some privacy. But anyway, and that went out to the hallway, which if you turned to the left, you went to my buddy's room, and he was rooming with a guy named Tom. And then if you went to the right, there was a staircase, and then also another guy he was long and lanky, and every time I do artwork, like I did chalk sketches and stuff, every time I do that, he'd collect my artwork. He thought I was pretty good. And then down at the bottom, you can see I've got the bed there, and then there's a pair of pants laying on the bed that haven't been hung up, and of course stuff on the floor and stuff. So that's kind of that was the room that I had when I came back from California that year and was on my own. And so $18 a month wasn't bad. Eventually, later on, I don't remember how many quarters it was. I don't know how many quarters I lived there. But I actually moved out of there and found a place on Grant Street in Bellingham. And I moved out, and then I moved into a little apartment on the second floor of a house. And it just had this one room that was being rented out. So I lived in that apartment and got away from my old friend from high school. And by the way, I was working my way through college. He wasn't. His parents were paying for him. And of course, it was much cheaper to rent a room than to live in the dormitory like we had the first year. So that's why he was living somewhere other than in the dormitory. And so as we come down here to where I live and come around to land, I lived in that apartment, and I have to tell you in the next video, I'll have to tell you some stories about living in that apartment. It was owned by an old lady who was married to a guy in his 40s. And it was quite a deal. Anyway, so as I come around here to land, let's see if I can get the, I don't remember if I got a picture of that mysterious door on the side of my son's shop, but we'll turn around here. We probably won't be able to see it as I come into land. So anyway, the mystery door is still waiting to be discovered, and so stay tuned, and one of these days you'll get to see what's behind the mystery door. In the meantime, this is my new landing pad. I thought since there's no vehicles parked here, I'll take off and land from this point right here. So there we go. There's another story for you, and another flight around the neighborhood. I want to thank you for watching my videos, and God bless.